right. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Rise and Grind morning show. Hey, take a look there. Eric's back. It is the 17th of July. Man, we are so close. We are so close. I know everyone is itching for some real football, and it is going to be here in no time at all. We're all going to blink and wake up, and it's going to be here. So we've got a packed show today. Today's roster, Lions news and rumors, of course. We're going to go around the league, see what's happening. Lions have an open roster spot. What does that mean? And Canada. No, I can't sing, but there's some things going on in Canada that are intriguing right now. It's crunch time. We're going to talk about partnership with Crunch Time for the 11th. Get your tickets. Of course, Rockdown Podcast Network has extra tickets for you guys for training camp. And the Brandon Aiyuk drama, man, it's intense. What does it mean for the Lions? And mailbag questions. We are completely loaded out today. We'll be back here in 90 seconds to get it kicked off. Good morning, everybody.
Adam Schefter at ESPN says there's 275,000 people.
Well, that was some party in downtown Detroit. 775,000 people shattering the NFL draft attendance record.
This is the future.
Oh, great.
Evolution. This is the future.
Oh, great.
Evolution.
Oh, great. All right, and we're back. So good morning, Eric. How you doing today? Welcome back to the show, my man. How was your trip?
Oh, my trip was great. I survived being in Minnesota Viking country for 5 days. I wore Lions gear every single day, wore my custom Uperlates Lions jerseys every day. Everybody got a kick out of it, but they know it by now. This is like my 15th year going to this trip, and every single year I wear a Lions jersey every day of the show.
Well, that's awesome, man. Way to rock out the Lions gear. We got packed house today. A lot of topics to get to. And we've got a chat that's lighting up already. It's been kind of light the last few days. I think the Lions fans they're kind of at that crossroads right now where, like, man, they are just so sick of the season of nothingness right now. Like, we're going through a season of nothingness because it's like we're right on the edge, but at the same time, there's just not a whole lot coming out. I mean, if you look at, the internet and try to look up Lions news or anything that's going on, like, there is really nothing there. You really have to dig and claw to find some decent topics or, think of things yourself, I guess. I think that's why a lot of creators kind of take this time off, but not us. We're going to keep rolling, keep pushing it through, and see if we can't develop some good content for everybody. So right away, let me welcome in the chat so we can get that out of the way. Appreciate you guys as always. You guys are the best part of Rockdown Podcast Network and Rockdown Detroit Lions. We got Rick in the house, Tracy, Roger Chappis, Moonscar Blade, Chip Bradshaw, Michael Garrity, Bo Booth, and of course, Uperlight's in the house there too. So anything catch your eye while you're off? I mean, anything at all kind of just pop up or anything on your mind before we get rolling this morning?
Not really. I actually took 5 days off. I decompressed from football a little bit. I paused the receiver show that I was watching before I left, and I still watched a little bit of it this morning, but now I'm kind of catching up and finding out there really wasn't much that went on the last 5 days. Pretty dead time of season. But you know what? We only have 3 more days until the rookies report to camp. And then only 3 or 4 days after that, the veterans show up. So camp is just upon us. Yesterday was a lot of fun being in the queue on the wait list to get those tickets yesterday morning. Holy moly, 2.5 hours I waited to get 4 tickets to one of the days, and everything sold out, and everybody behind me was mad because I think I pretty much got the last tickets, because everybody that was behind me in line, it said sold out, sold out, sold out, sold out, sold out. Everything was sold out.
Yeah, that's not fun. Thankfully, I get in early, and we were able to get plenty of tickets. We secured plenty of tickets for Rocked On Detroit Lions audience members. So obviously the loyalty crew, the people that show up, the people that are here all the time. If you guys did not get tickets, I'm going to put together a few packages. Our goal is to do something on the 11th, and I'll get to that here in a little bit. But we will have some extra tickets for you guys. Last year, I think we gave away, 50 or so. It'll be close to that, if not a little bit more this year. Probably more. So, couple of cool things that have happened while you were gone. So I was contacted by a New York-based podcast, and they want me to come on for the preseason game. So we're going to be on the lookout for some more information to follow. Obviously, I'll share it with everybody here so you guys can get on and watch and support this podcast as well. I don't know much about them, but we'll dig into that. I mean, I tried to watch a few of their shows yesterday, so I'm excited that you get the invite to go do some of these things. And being on a New York show, I think, is kind of fun because it's a much bigger audience, and we'll see where it goes. But Crunch Time partnership, I'll talk to you guys about that here in a little bit too. But you already mentioned that the rookies are coming back on the 20th, so just 3 days, like you said, and we are back to football. But yesterday, rookies for 8 NFL teams started to report to training camp. So on Tuesday, you had the Buffalo Bills, the Chicago Bears, Kansas City Chiefs, Los Angeles Chargers, Miami Dolphins, New Orleans Saints, New York Giants, and San Francisco 49ers. Now, the Kansas City quarterbacks also were slated to report alongside the rookies. I'm not real sure why that was different for them, but is what it is. And then, of course, we have the Hall of Fame game. 16 days away. I can't wait. I will be there. I'll be down at the Hall of Fame festivities for that week. I was invited by PFUFA member Lions superfans. We'll be down there hanging out with all the other superfans from around the nation, doing a lot of good and having a lot of fun at the Hall of Fame ceremonies and that. It is a packed itinerary, but I'm absolutely blessed to be invited to this event. And I'll make sure it's a staple every year. So hopefully I'll have some pop-up podcasts, some interviews, and some things like that we'll be doing that week. So the NFL's 2024 Pro Football Hall of Fame game will feature the Chicago Bears and Houston Texans. So we're going to get our first look at Caleb Williams potentially. I can't imagine that he's not going to play in that game. I would assume that they're going to want to get a look at him against any sort of a defense. Devin Hester, Steve McMichael, and Julius Peppers of the Bears and Andre Johnson from the Texans are among the former players who will be enshrined this season as members of the Class of 2024 Hall of Fame. Now, the game will kick off at 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, August 1st during the Pro Football Hall of Fame Enshrinement Week in Canton, Ohio. Other inductees in this year's class are Dwight Freeney, Randy Gradishar, and Patrick Willis. The Hall of Fame ceremony will take place again on Saturday, August 3rd. Man, are you excited for some football just here? I mean, just 16 days away. We've got a game that we get to watch or be at.
Even just to watch the Bears and the Texans play a preseason game on, I can't wait.
So I know, me either. I'm going to be there. I'll be in row 1, right in the middle of the end zone. Is where I'm going to be. Row 1, right in the middle of the end zone, the south end zone, I think it is, but I'm directionally challenged or dysfunctional. So just look for me because I'm going to try to be promoting Rocked On Podcast and rocked on Detroit Lions. I will be wearing Lions gear, and I will be trying to promote. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. You either see me getting kicked out or streaking down the field. Who knows? We'll see what happens. So last night, let me get into some roster here. Let's see what we got going on today. So Lions news and rumors, there's just not a ton. We do have one big subject to talk about, and that's because got some mailbag questions yesterday or the last couple of days. And I think that it's phenomenal that you guys are coming up with great questions, but this one has to do with Brandon Aiyuk. And what is the potential that Brandon Aiyuk becomes a Detroit Lion? Now, I'm going to give you my scathing review, of course, and I'm also going to level the playing field with some reality. There was a great segment last night that I heard from Booner on Crunch Time, and I want to follow up with that because he's spot on. And I want to follow that up with kind of how I feel and what I've been saying for a long time, too. But before we get to all of that, let's get to the open roster spot and Canada. What do I mean by Canada? So Canada is not just the home of probably the best maple syrup you're ever going to taste, right? But they are also sticky with talent in the Canadian Football League. You see what I did there, Eric? You see that?
Yeah, I gotcha.
So the Lions, obviously, they feel right at home when finding talent across that proverbial river there that separates us from Canada. And there is a new name to watch, and that is the BC Lions receiver, Justin McInnis. 6'5", 216-pound receiver, is an absolute animal right now in that league. The CFL is turning out some good product. Now, he has a league-leading 45 receptions for a league-leading 725 yards in just 6 games. So I didn't do the math, but let's just do the math real quick. So you got 45 catches in 6 games. That's an average of 7.5 per game. 725 yards is an average of 121 yards per game. Ooh. That's pretty solid. Now, I know what you guys are going to say. It's the CFL. Well, I think the receiver might be one of the I don't want to say one of the easier positions to play in the CFL. I think they have an extra receiver on the field, if I'm not mistaken. But it's still tough. I mean, the dude, listen, this is not easy. He caught 14 passes on 14 targets for 243 yards and a touchdown. That was this past Saturday. And some have even likened him to the Canadian version of Justin Jefferson. Now, McInnis is from Quebec, but he played his college football here in the States for Arkansas State. Now, McInnis got his NFL opportunities with both the Colts and the Titans in 2019, much like Mathieu Betts, and has spent his entire professional career in the CFL. Now, he's had a decent career in the league, but this season, for some reason, he's just taken off. He's taken flight. And it's really insane to see what he's able to do. Now, he's played 18 games last year, and he's already outdone his season totals from last year in just 6 games. So if the Lions or any other team is interested, this is the part that you won't like, that they're going to have to wait until the end of December to make their move. Because much like Betts, McInnis is someone that could be signed in February after the season concludes. So we're talking about a guy getting a shot at camp in 2025. Now, have you seen anything about McInnis? Because this one I found last night, found it very interesting.
Yeah, nothing. I'll tell you what, I'm up near Canada, but I don't have CTV. I don't have TSN. This is where we need Coach Bono to come on and talk about this guy, because literally I can't watch these games. I don't have the CFL. I don't even know when their season starts, when it ends. I think I've only ever seen 1 or 2 CFL games in my life. I would like to watch them. I wish they were on every Sunday, just like the NFL. It would get me by in the summertime, something to watch, even though it's 12-man and they play some funky 1.5 yards off the ball stuff. It'd still be interesting to watch. You know, football's football, and I'm just a football junkie. So even the CFL, I would love to watch it, but I don't have those channels, not on DirecTV up here anyway.
So Superintendent Chalmers would like me to address Antoine Green, and I'll do that. We'll do that at some point if we get time today. If not, we'll do it tomorrow. But I'm going to add it right now. So thoughts on Antoine Green taking flight this season to wide receiver 3 and first team reps, right? So we'll get to that. We'll try to get to it today, I promise. We just got a packed house this morning. So up next here, I know I shouldn't have taken the roster screen off there real quick, but we've got No Canada, the open roster spot we'll get to in just a second. But up next, let's talk about crunch time. Actually, hold on. Let me see where I want to go with this. Let's go to the open roster spot. So I'm trying to do this in a way that it kind of flows into Brandon Aiyuk, and I think that crunch time kind of flows into Brandon Aiyuk.
All right.
So the Lions have one open roster spot currently, and the question in this was a mailbag question. So the questions are this: why has Brad Holmes left a hole? Who should the Lions target? And when will they fill this empty void? And to answer all three of those, I would say, I don't know why he left a hole. The Lions should probably target a few different positions, and no clue when they're going to fill it. But let's break it down a little bit. And the way that I'm going to do that is I want to take a look at the Lions PFF rankings right now and the depth chart and try to give us a little bit of guidance in use some realism here, like what makes the most sense. So I think it's a little eye-popping when you look at the PFF rankings for each of our positional groups. I took a look at this again last night, and when you start with the offense, man, this is insane to me that not only do we have 6 in the top 10 at their position, we have 10 in the top 26 overall. So we have Gibbs at 9th, Monty at 23rd. I would argue that there's no reason why Bijan Robinson should be ahead of Gibbs. Maybe not even Monty, to be honest with you. At wide receiver, we have Amon-Ra 7th. I think he's a little bit more well-deserved of 5th, maybe 4th, not 7th. Tight end, Sam Laporta at 5th. Now, this is positional ranking by position, so it's not overall. So that's, Gibbs is the 9th best running back. Monty's the 23rd best. Amon-Ra is the 7th best wide receiver. Laporta is the 5th best tight end. Now, he was behind Hawkinson, which I don't agree with that at all. And it's not just because Hawkinson's no longer a Lion. I just feel like Sam Laporta is better. Then you have offensive guard. You have Glasgow, who is ahead of Jonah Jackson, believe it or not, at 26th. But Kevin Zeitler, our transplant from the Ravens, 6th overall best guard in the NFL per PFF. And then you have offensive tackles. Taylor Decker, 14th overall for offensive tackles. And Penei Sewell was 3rd. Now, that part doesn't make sense because Penei Sewell was the highest graded offensive tackle in 2023. He's been one of the highest graded offensive tackles since he entered the league. Why would he be behind Tristan Wirfs? Doesn't make any sense to me. Then you have center Frank Ragnow, who comes in at 2nd. This, again, doesn't make sense to me either. He's the best center in the league when he's on the field. And he's on the field pretty much every game. And then you have Jared Goff, who ranked as 16th best quarterback, PFF ranking. But even when you look at this, 10 players rated in the top 26. But if you get more granular, let's say you remove Glasgow and Monty from the list, that means that you have 8 players that are ranked 14th or better. And when you look at the positional groupings like offensive tackle, well, you really have 2 per team, and then you have 2 teams. That's 64 tackles. That means that the Lions have 2 top 14 out of 64 tackles in the league. That's insane. When you look at the defense, and then Eric, I'll get your comments on this. Mm-hmm. When you look at the defense, we only have 1 in the top 10, 4 in the top 15, or a total of 5 in the top 15. So not nearly the same quality on defense as opposed to offense. Safety, none. We don't have anybody ranked. Cornerback and defensive back, you have Brian Branch at 13th, Carlton Davis at 22nd. Linebacker, none, ranked in the top 34. Defensive tackle, McNeil, 15th. DJ Reader, 13th. Edge, Aiden Hutchinson, 6th. So, in my opinion here, if we're going to look at what do the Lions need to fill, and you're looking at these open roster spot, or at this open roster spot, and who should they target and why? Well, I think that there's an argument here for 3 positions, 1 on offense, 2 on defense. Wide receiver has been a sore thumb. And I say that because you're trying to replace Josh Reynolds from last season. And that's not as easy as what some may believe. So trying to replace his 75 receptions last year means that Jameson has to step up if he's going to be the number 2. He's going to have to catch, like I said the other day, 80 balls, 800 yards, 8 touchdowns. That's the floor for me. I mean, of course, I want to see him have north of 500, but that's just not cutting it. And then you have 2 on defense. So safety, early in the offseason, I said that safety was a concern. I mean, I still think we have enough there, especially if Brian Branch is going to slide back. So if Brian Branch slides back to safety, problem fixed. But if he doesn't, then it's a problem. And I only mean that a problem for depth and for having, a top-rated safety currently part of the roster. Doesn't mean that if Yatu Melifonwu or Kirby Joseph can't come out swinging this year and have an all-pro season, because that could happen. And then you have linebacker. So with none of them making the top 34, it's a bit shocking. But again, this is PFF. So I would say that Alex Anzalone is definitely a top-rated linebacker in this league. So again, those are the 3 positions just purely based on PFF. Personally, I would say that the issue for me relies on, do we really have a number 2 wide receiver? I'm not totally sold that Jameson is there yet. He's going to have to prove it. Safety and linebacker. Now, Eric, let's get your thoughts.
Yeah. For us having 1 open roster spot, you got to remember right now, this is 90-man rosters. So it's not like we're down to 53 and we're talking about just 1 spot on the 53. This is 1 spot of 90. So it's not really a big deal. Common thing this time of year to have 1 open spot just in case somebody comes along that is either a free agent or someone from another team. Lots of trades going on this time of year, especially lower spots on rosters. And I wouldn't be surprised if we just bring somebody in off the street just to be a filler, a 4th quarterback, a 10th CB, a 6th wide receiver, something like that, not a real big name or anything. So most of the time, I think these little open roster spots this time of year are not really that big of a deal. I don't think it's we're bringing in Aiyuk. I don't think it's we're bringing in Debo, or we're bringing in Justin Simmons or somebody that's, out there still.
Yeah, I would agree that, obviously you're looking at an upgrade. The open roster spot right now is you're looking to upgrade, the 90-man and give yourself some more camp competition. It's just a little weird that we have an open roster spot this close to camp. I mean, you could add another UDFA and then, get someone in early for rookies. For rookie camp, which starts in 3 days, or you're probably looking to add a vet, which you still have a little bit of time. I can't imagine that we're going to enter camp with 89 players. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you not want to have 90 guys? Whether that's an extra quarterback throwing the ball or, another kick returner or something. And man, that's a whole nother topic that I haven't even gotten to yet, which is Jameson Williams as potential gunner and or kick returner this year. Something that's creeped up from 2022, if you remember. So I'm going to add that. I think if we get time today, we'll talk about it. Otherwise, I'll try to add it for tomorrow. Question in here from Phil. He says, any other teams bring in CFL players? Yeah, there was a few. And I'd have to be honest with you and tell you that I can't remember everybody and their moves. I know the Bears brought somebody in. I think the Steelers brought somebody in, but I couldn't tell you. Like, to be honest with you, I couldn't tell you everybody, but there's been, and UFL players too. So there's been a few. there hasn't been a rash of CFL players this season. I'd say that there's more this year than we've seen in seasons past, though. I would say that. So great question, Phil. And Superintendent Chalmers says Khalil Pimpleton is also lighting it up in the CFL. Pimpleton was on our squad, last year? No, last year, the year before?
Yeah, for Hard Knocks.
2 years ago. Yeah. No, I liked him. I thought that, he was a bright spot, in that season, as far as someone that was trying to earn a spot, like just a super energetic kid, man. I mean, he was all smiles all the time. And man, does he got speed. And I think he went to the Giants, right? Didn't he get picked up by the Giants? Yeah.
Yep.
So something didn't work out for him. But, again, if you're looking for speed, he's a guy that has it. Maybe he gets another shot. I don't know.
He dropped a lot of balls.
Yeah, that's not going to work. That ain't going to work in the NFL. And that's something that, we should talk about with Jameson and that's why I'm kind of worried right now to a degree is because he's got an 18.9% drop rate since he's been in the NFL. And that really worries the hell out of me. Is that going to creep up this season? Are we going to see a bunch of drops again? I hope not. But I wouldn't bet on it. I wouldn't bet on it just yet. I hope not. Let's see. Superintendent says PFF is tripping. Aren't they always? Bo Booth wants what PFF is smoking. I'm sure it's good in Canada, man. BC Nugs, whatever they got going on up there. I don't know. Bo Booth says Anzo gets no respect. That is for sure. Don't forget mailbag at rockdon.com, you guys. If you guys want to get some questions in, comments, whatever, mailbag at rockdon.com. That's where the mailbag is going to go. And we've got the phone line back. So today at probably 8:55 a.m. is probably going to be the time we do this. We're going to take a few phone calls. So we're going to get through the morning segment, the first few segments. 8:55, we'll take a few phone calls, and then we'll finish up our segment for the day. So I think that's what we're going to do just before the 9 a.m. hour is take a few phone calls, and let's hear what you guys have to say, how excited you are for the season, anything that's on your mind. That will help give us some more topics to talk about. And here's the show phone number is 313-312-0348. Lock it in your phones. That is a permanent phone number. So 313-312-0348. 8:55 a.m. Eastern is when that will open. Don't try calling now because it won't be answered. All right, so let's get to the next segment here. I guess let me finish with this one. Do I think the Lions are going to add, another high-profile player prior to camp? I really don't. I don't think that they will. I think that they'll probably find somebody. I think that the Lions are pretty set with their roster the way that it is, and they just have to really see how it's going to shake out during camp. I think there's a lot of questions there with some players that, are they, just some people wondering, is Antoine Green wide receiver 3? I think that those questions are obviously going to be answered in camp. I think that he has a great opportunity to. The one thing that I know about Antoine Green is he doesn't drop balls. The guy catches everything. So you look for that to help propel him to earn a better spot. I think the biggest thing is for him to come in and know the playbook. Second season with Ben Johnson's offense. So I guess I'm answering your question now. Second season with Ben Johnson's offense. He should feel more comfortable. Last year, he wasn't playing to speed because he didn't feel comfortable. And Antoine Randall L. even said this, a couple times throughout the season that, look, he's got to come in and play to speed. When he plays with speed, he's wonderful. But when he's, a little cautious about what he's doing, he's thinking too much. That's when he doesn't play to speed. And when you've got that kind of, those kind of afterburners that Antoine Green has, he's quick. I mean, he's not J-Mo quick, but he's quick. You want him to be able to utilize that speed to get down the field in a hurry. But he's got to be on that, that same wavelength with Jared Goff. He's got to be in a timing offense. He's got to be able to perform. Any remarks on that for you, Eric?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of Antoine Green in the preseason. It doesn't matter if it's going to be Hooker or the other kid throwing in the ball, Nate Sudfeld. We are going to be having a lot of Antoine Green I think we're going to see a lot of that Williams kid, the UDFA, and anyone else trying to get to this roster that's a wide receiver. We really need to see what we have to see if we do need to bring in someone to be that second or third wide receiver. And it's all going to play out in the preseason. We're going to get 3 games. They're going to get a lot of work with the New York Giants. They're going to have their scrimmage practice with those guys. So you're not going to see too much in the preseason game with the Giants, but I think that's where you're going to see a lot of Hooker, and you're going to see a lot of these other guys play, because you're not going to see any starters playing in that game, in that preseason game for sure. And I doubt we see Goff in a single preseason game this year. Maybe the same for, a couple of the starters where you don't even see them in the preseason whatsoever.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I always feel like we'll at least see him for just one performance. That's it. Just one. One time with the ball, one offensive series. That's all I care about. I just want to see one. So there was a question in here, is CFL playing games right now? They are. And Roger Chappis, thank you for addressing this question. He said the CFL season this year is from mid-June to November. Regular season ends in late October. 18 regular season games. The Grey Cup Championship game is on November 17th. So a little overlap with the NFL season, but it's in a different country, so there's really not much of an overlap, right? Let's see here. Phil says Steven Diggs balls out in camp but gets no shot to make the team. I don't know about all that. I don't really know much about Steven Diggs' whole situation, or Steven Diggs' situation. I couldn't answer that one. Bo Boo says Warren Moon is the biggest CFL guy to play in the NFL. I didn't know that Warren Moon played in CFL. I really didn't know that. I loved watching Warren Moon play, man. What else we got in here? Phil says Hooker's rookie season. Love to see him shake it up. I want to see a lot of Hooker this preseason. I really do. I don't want to see Nate Sudfeld. I want to see Hendon Hooker. I think that he needs to get the majority of snaps. Win, lose, or draw, I could care less. It's preseason. But you need to put that kid out there and give him some time. You can throw Nate Sudfeld in the last quarter or whatever, but it is what it is. I want to see Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, and I think we all want to see Hendon Hooker as much as possible in the preseason, because we don't want to see Hendon Hooker in the regular season unless we absolutely have to. But then if we have to, then we'll know what we have.
It's funny. Roger Chappis is going in and checking my receipts. He says, I was watching some older Rocked On Lions videos yesterday. Appreciate that, by the way. It's always fun to go back and watch the old stuff and kind of compare where we were then to where we are now, right? And he says, I see that you've been an Antoine Green supporter for a long time now. Well, Roger, let me tell you this. Not only am I an Antoine Green supporter, I'm a Detroit Lions supporter. So even though I have some harsh comments at times about players, it's just honest, right? Reality, realism. I still support them no matter what. I have, the notion that they're going to be great, that they're all going to do wonderful. The reality is that's not true. I think that Antoine Green has high upside. I absolutely do. Watching him play at North Carolina, he was Drake May's number 1-2 target, and the kid absolutely can fly. So I want to see him get some work in this year. Interested to see what happens with Justin McInnis next year, though, out of the CFL. All right, so next up, we're going to talk about crunch time. So this is kind of a long segment, Eric, so bear with me here.
Sure.
So get your tickets, guys. I'm going to be doing some giveaways, like I said, for the training camp. I'll help figure out how many tickets I have to each practice. But we are going to be doing something with crunch time. So I reached out. I wanted to do something that was kind of content creator and fan kind of meetup for the 11th. So August 11th practice, which starts at around noon. Or the practice thing starts at 1:15, but the gates open at noon. I would like to do a meetup that morning. So we're going to pick a spot. We're going to find a spot that can house enough people, because we have no idea how many people will actually show up to this. 2 ideas here is like we hit up a big restaurant and do a little meet and greet breakfast with everybody, and or we just do a straight up tailgate somewhere. We'll get more information, and get it pumped out quickly so that people can plan. But I'm going to plan on giving away as many tickets as I have to this event. Going to try to interest Crunch Time in doing a podcast that morning or some sort of a live to kind of get all of the fans there, go live on YouTube, and just kind of pump up the Lions training camp. So it's going to be an opportunity for all of us to join together. There might be some gift bag giveaways. There might be some other things going on there. So if you have your own tickets and you want to join the meet and greet, that's totally fine. As many fans that we can get there as possible. Let's get some crazy photos. Let's kick off the season the right way in support of Detroit Lions and have some fun that morning. It's a later practice, so I think it'll be fun. So last night I caught Crunch Time. I'm outside doing landscaping. And I don't listen to him very often, and I have to be honest with that. And that's because I'm always busy. Either I'm on myself or I'm writing, for my shows, or I just got, things I got to do around the house. So I actually caught him last night, which when I do catch him, I love their show. They do a great job. They cover all different sports, as you guys know, for Detroit. They got great opinions on all the major sports here in Detroit. And they do a great job. But I have to be honest about something here. And that is where Booner had an awesome point last night about Lions fans and the whole thing that when any player gets released or wants a trade, it's like immediate Twitter fingers from every Lions fan. And it's like, hey, to the Lions, or I bet the Lions will pick him up, or man, we could use him, blah, 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 blah. Now, I'm not speaking for Booner, right, or anyone over there, but that's kind of the gist of what he was talking about is realism, being realistic. So I wanted to weigh in on this because I've actually spoken about this a few times, and I think it's actually a problem for Lions fans, and it's something that I'm going to call, I just want a damn winner syndrome. And for so many seasons, that whenever any possibility at an upgrade becomes available, fans get their hopes up and the ultimate dreams get crushed when it doesn't happen, right? But what many fans are not realizing or I think taking into consideration is the financial impact. And they want the highest price edge like Danielle Hunter, or the expensive wide receiver like T. Higgins, or the safety like Justin Simmons, which for the record, I wanted Justin Simmons too. I did until the Lions addressed the DB room with 4 replacements. Carlton Davis, Amik Robertson, Terrion Arnold, and Ennis Rakestraw. I know that really didn't address the safety position, but they kind of did by being able to put Branch back there. I digress. But the point is, you cannot pay Amon-Ra, Penei Sewell, Jared Goff, and then hope to retain Aiden Hutchinson, potentially Aleem McNeil next season, and bring in these high-priced free agents that cost the same or close to what your number one wide receiver wants to make or is making now. And let's be honest, Brad Holmes has told us time and time again, he's shown us time and time and time again, he is not going to bring in high-priced free agents. He's just not going to do it. They're going to build through the draft, they're going to cultivate their team through the draft, and then they're going to develop their team. And then in 3 or 4 seasons, they're going to re-sign their own team as long as they've made the cut, which the majority of them have, because the Lions are really good at developing their players. So now, some people that push it for content, right? This player to the Lions, that player, it's just part of the process. Whether it's a writer writing it or, a YouTuber talking about it, it's part of the process. But what they're thriving on is the Lions delusion, right? The Lions fan delusion that we think that we can just have anybody, or that maybe these players do want to play for the Lions. And honestly, for the last 30 plus years, no one's wanted to play for the Lions until the last few seasons. So I think that there's a little bit of a gut check right there, reaction that, hey, now we do, have an opportunity to get some of these players because we are a different team. That part I wholly understand and I appreciate. But the gullibility factor of this, or the lack of knowledge when it comes to the game and the business side and how those two mesh, some just don't know better, I guess, and some just don't get into the fray. Some totally ignore it all. Some go diving off into the deep end. So others play Madden, right, or fantasy football. And I needn't really need to remind you that this is neither. The NFL is neither. It's not fantasy. It's not Madden. So you have to keep your reality in check that, man, we just can't have everybody. And it just doesn't make sense. So here we are. We have an amazing roster, right? It's 2024. Brand new Lions. Very deepest roster I've seen in a very, very long time. We don't need every available free agent. If Brad Holmes wants a player and feels it's going to help this team out, he'll do it. He'll find him. Somehow he'll do it with his magical wand, right? That brings this player in at some crazy steal of a contract. And it has to be the right fit. And we know that. Above all else, it has to be the right fit. And the other reason why I'm bringing this up or speaking to this is because we just witnessed Cam Sutton and Isaiah Buggs go down in flames this offseason. Little did we know that we had a couple of misfits brewing inside the Lions locker room. And the Lions still managed to keep the house from burning down. So I expect Brad Holmes to be extra diligent this season when bringing guys in, because if you haven't noticed, we are not here very often. And this is the time to make a run, which means it's all hands on deck, right? Every player better fit this team, and it has to work. Now, the one bad seed can ruin all of that, can ruin an entire crop. And I trust this organization will do it the right way. And they have. Wow, that was a lot, right? But to be honest, we still have to have fun with some of these scenarios. The what ifs, the hypotheticals, point out the potential fits. But honestly, I'm good with this team as it is for this season right now. And if there is really one area of concern that maybe we should be concerned with, it is wide receiver. And that's only if training camp doesn't show us the truth that DPJ and Antoine Green and Jamison Williams can take that next big step and fill those giant shoes that Josh Reynolds left behind. So if those two things can happen, or those three things can happen, then I think we're solid. But the other reason why I'm talking about this is because this is going to go into the next segment of Brandon Aiyuk. And what does it mean? So before we get into Brandon Aiyuk, I know I said a lot, Eric, but what do you think about the I just want a damn winner syndrome in Detroit?
So for the last 32 years, the Detroit Lions have not won the division. They've not won a playoff game. We sucked. Literally, we sucked for 30 years. And I've always been a staunch, supporter of the Lions, always going to games. And every time a free agent player comes open, I was always the guy, oh, we got to go get him. Oh, we got to go get him. Oh, we got to go get him. This guy will be the savior. This guy will be the savior. But we don't need the savior anymore. This is brand new Lions. This is a new mindset, not only for the team, not only for the coaches and the GM. This is a new mindset for the fans. And us as fans, we have to get out of SOL. We have to get out of same old Lions brain syndrome where every time someone comes available, we have to have them on our team. That is not it. And I saw a lot of that come out last year at the trade deadline. Everybody wanted Chase Young. Everybody wanted Sweat. Everybody wanted that one more player, that one more piece that would have got us there. I don't think that one more piece would have got us there. I really believe you got to build it. You can't just buy it. And I don't think buying a high-priced free agent right now like Aiyuk or anybody else is what the Lions need. We just need to keep plugging along. Brad will fill that roster spot. It'll probably be somebody we don't even know who they are. And we as Lions fans, sometimes we have to take a step back and we have to think about it for a second and try to get out of SOL, get into BNL, be the brand new Lions, get a new mindset. So now every time I see a free agent, I don't even think about it. I don't even think, hey, that guy would fit right into the Lions. I don't even think about it anymore. So I'm kind of the opposite now. I'm getting to the point where you jump on social media and you see 50 memes about this guy going to the Lions. I'm just like, yeah, never going to happen. Never going to happen. So it's different now, because before I was always like, yeah, let's go get that guy. Let's go get him. And we'd never go get him.
Well, I think that, you're spot on about some things here. And I think that when you really look at the new Lions, the new way of doing things in Detroit, it's we've got cap space for once. And we go out and sign players and we still have cap space. So on the surface, when you look at, okay, Brandon Aiyuk's available, $30 million is what he wants. He's said that. They've offered him $26 million, and I'll get into that in just a second, but he wants $30 million or more. The Lions have it. Could they do it? Sure. On the surface, you're like, man, imagine if we had Amon-Ra St. Brown and the guy that crushed our dreams last year on the roster. What could we do this season? Well, that all sounds great. What about the guys that are already there? What about the guys that are already in the system? What about the guys that have put the blood, sweat, and tears in that are a good culture fit? And I know culture's not everything. And, you hear some people say, well, you can't just have grit. Grit's not going to take you to the Super Bowl or whatever. But you kind of do. When you actually study what Angela Duckworth in her book on grit means, it's around here somewhere, what that book on grit means, right here, make sure you get your copy on Amazon. It's everything that the Lions are doing. It's not just this tough tenacity, tough on the field, energetic type of player. It's everything that's involved in the word grit. It's the meaning goes on and on and on and on to mean so many different things for this team, breaking it down from how they do contracts to how they practice to who they are on and off the field. Do they have the internal fire to do it themselves? What is what are the mice doing when the cat's away, right? When no one's watching them, what are they doing? When Dan Campbell had the Lions run their own practice, I think that was during Hard Knocks, right?
Yep.
That was a test. Can these guys go out there and do it without me? And can they do it without all these coaches? What are they going to do when no one is watching? Are they going to go out there and goof off and screw around? Who are my leaders? Because in that scenario, that's where the leaders rise to the top. And the guys that maybe were on the fringe of becoming a leader, either they're going to take a step forward or a step backward in that light. So the word grit is more than just who they are on the field on Sundays. It's everything that this team does. So anyway, I'll digress with that. Great point by Booner last night. Lions fans need to have a reality check. I know it's fun. And of course, we're still going to talk about some of these things, right? We're still going to post the memes. We're still going to, talk about, the players that are available. And that's just part of what we do. But let's get into Brandon Aiyuk here. Anything? Do you want to say something?
Oh, it's going to go right along with what you're about to talk about.
Okay. So Brandon Aiyuk's contract situation with the San Francisco 49ers has become a very significant point of contention this offseason. It's also given some Lions fans the hope and the dream that maybe we'll bring in another number one wide receiver. Now, the primary issues revolve around Aiyuk's desire for a lucrative extension, and the 49ers are very cautious in approaching, him and to meeting his demands for wanting a top-tier contract that would make him the highest paid receiver in the game, or at least the second or third highest paid receiver. So contract negotiations, number one here, Aiyuk is seeking a deal that reflects his performance. Now, especially after a very strong season last season where he earned second-team All-Pro honors, he aims to be among the top-paid wide receivers in the league. However, the 49ers are employing a similar negotiation in tactics to those that they used with Deebo Samuel. They offered him a contract with lower annual value, but higher guarantees. The 49ers offered him a deal worth $26 million a year. But Aiyuk believes he deserves more based on recent market trends and comparable contracts signed by other top receivers this season, one being Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, the trade rumors and the social media activity, I guess, is where I'm going with this one, too. So, Aiyuk's social media behavior has fueled trade rumors. He unfollowed the 49ers on Instagram, and then he posted cryptic messages, which many interpreted as signs of dissatisfaction and potential desire to be traded. Now, despite these rumors, Aiyuk has publicly stated that he wants to remain with the team. There have been reports of a good meeting, in quotes, between Aiyuk and the team, but they remain no closer to a contract agreement than they did yesterday. So, next topic here is the player and the insider perspectives. You got George Kittle, Aiyuk's teammate. He's expressed confidence that Aiyuk will stay with the 49ers, despite any ongoing contract dispute. Then you have the NFL insiders, including one named Adam Schefter, have highlighted the possibility of an A.J. Brown-like scenario where Aiyuk could be traded if a contract agreement isn't reached soon. Now, the situation obviously remains fluid, which I believe has sparked some of the, Lions fan, I just want a damn winner syndrome. That the possibility of Aiyuk being traded, to anywhere would potentially be, an NFC team. I don't believe so. I don't think that he would go to an NFC team. I think that, why would the 49ers do that to themselves? Now, of course, there's a few teams that would love to have him, but I think that he would end up in the AFC, to be honest with you. Now, here's my hot take on Brandon Aiyuk, I guess, if you want to call it a hot take. In my opinion, in situations like this, the receivers have all the power. They hold all the cards. They either play for less or they sit out an entire season. Now, they play for less, meaning they're getting less than what they wanted or what they believe they're worth, or they sit out an entire season. That's their options. Now, according to the player, it would be the team either pays me what I want or I sit. According to the team, you play for less or you sit. No matter what the wide receiver has done in the past, rarely, if ever, does a deal not get done and the player holds out. When's the last time you've heard of a player hold out? Hardly ever. I can't imagine. I don't even know the last time a player's held out an entire season over a contract. I'm sure there's been one or two here or there, but honestly, none of them pop into my head right away. The 49ers are in a win now mode, and Aiyuk is not what a Josh Reynolds is to the Lions or was to the Lions. He is the 49ers offense. And believe it or not, Kittle relies on his presence. So does McCaffrey, and so does Debo. Without Aiyuk, a true number one threat in the game, those three players are a lot less likely to have the success they do. Now, of course, they will still perform. They will still have great games. All three will still have great seasons. But to what extent could it be better when you have Aiyuk on the field? It is entirely different without your number one wide receiver in the game. Just ask the Lions. If we didn't have Sam Laporta last year to back up Amon-Ra St. Brown, where would we have been? Would Jameson Williams have gone off? I don't know. But that's what you have to look at here. If Aiyuk is not in the game, what happens to Debo? What happens to Kittle? Now you can play them much differently. It's easier to guard two than it is three. So if Aiyuk is out of the NFC due to a trade, now that's the huge point for the Lions. And I think that where this situation is really intense, because now this helps their possibility to capture the number one seed. But it also helps the Eagles and the Rams too. So to end this little hot take debate on Brandon Aiyuk, he holds all the cards. There is no way that the 49ers are going to allow him to sit out an entire year and them not have the ability to utilize him and his presence on the field and how important that is and was to their run last season and the previous seasons. There's no way. So Brandon Aiyuk holds all the cards. Either the 49ers are going to play, or either they're going to pay him or they're going to trade him. So that's the flip side. What are they going to get for him? I don't think they're going to get much more than a third-round pick. And that's because the amount of the contract that a team is going to have to give Aiyuk for Aiyuk to even suit up this year is going to be huge. So there's going to have to be a team that is willing to pay him 4 years, $120 million. Or he doesn't play for that team either. So the deal would probably have to get done before Aiyuk is traded. They would have to be able to have some sort of negotiations with the new team. And I just don't see any of that happening. I see Brandon Aiyuk playing for the 49ers this season. He's not going to sit out. 49ers will pay him. They don't have a choice. The only choice that they really have is they could probably pay him, a big 1-year deal so that they don't overcommit for, 2, 3, 4 years. I don't think Aiyuk would take that either. If he did, he would have taken $26 million and called it a day. So Brandon Aiyuk is not coming to the Detroit Lions. It's just not possible, in my opinion, for us to add another number one that is going to want the same amount of money. Could you imagine $60 million going to 2 wide receivers? I mean, let's be real, guys. Let's be completely honest. If you want a winner, if you want to sustain success, you can't do that. Because then there goes Aiden Hutchinson. There goes Aleem McNeil. If DJ Reader comes to life and you want to re-sign him, there goes DJ Reader. You can't afford these guys. You can't afford all of them. So that's my hot take for this morning on Brandon Aiyuk and the intense situation over there for the 49ers. What say you, Eric Rintamaki?
All right. So there's a little something that Brad Holmes has in his memory bank, and he's never going to let it go. And that's the fact that back in January, the Lions were up on the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game 24-7. And the 49ers came back to beat us with Brandon Aiyuk. And Brad Holmes did something about it this spring. And he did it before the 49ers had a chance to re-sign Aiyuk. And that's signing Amon-Ra St. Brown to a record-breaking contract. So now, because they didn't get Aiyuk done in time, now Aiyuk wants St. Brown or better money. He wants more than St. Brown.
Whoa, wait. We got breaking news.
All right, go ahead.
Brandon Aiyuk has just been traded.
Really? Two?
He's been traded to the Buffalo Bills for a first-round pick and a third-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft.
Really?
So like I said, they hold all the cards, man. And you know what? The 49ers, they got a bag for him. They got a first and a third. I expected a third.
Wow.
But they got a first and a third. Huge overpayment because now the Bills are going to have to pay this dude $30 million a year. So way to poo-poo on my take this morning, Aiyuk. You just couldn't wait 24 hours. I don't think this is the real Adam Schefter. I'm just kidding here. Hold on here. Let's just make sure.
You know what? Even if it's real, listen, he's just going to be the next Stephon Diggs on that team. You know, what did Diggs do for him?
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. That's the fake Adam Schefter. So keep going, Eric.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So anyway, my take was this, that Brad Holmes got this deal done with St. Brown, and now Aiyuk wants better than him money. So that's what's coming back to bite them. And that's going to come back to bite them later this year in December when I'm at Levi Stadium watching the 49ers play the Lions. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. That's one of the road games I'm really, really looking forward to. Spending a week in California in the nice warm sunshine. And it'll be funny if Brandon Aiyuk isn't there playing this time.
No, I think he will be. So let's just look at the face value of this trade. I mean, I think that's what it would take for the 49ers to be happy. And I think that's the other backside to this argument here, which was part of the mailbag question. So let me go back to the actual question that was part of this. Come on now, mouse, work.
Yes, fake Phil.
All right. So yeah, it was fake. That was just I had to do it. Where's my mailbag question? Okay, so it was Lions fans since the 50s wrote the question and wanting to know the impact for the Lions or the NFC with the whole Aiyuk thing and if the 49ers continue to build. So the second part of that, if I understood that question, it would be something like what happens if Aiyuk gets traded for a first-round pick or the 49ers pull off a trade that really nets them a competent wide receiver and some assets, to continue to build for the future. And I think that's the backside of this conversation is if the 49ers did move on from Aiyuk and they were able to pull off this, fake Adam Schefter, first and a third, I think that that's significant for the 49ers, who've been very lucky over the last few seasons with getting all these compensatory picks, all of these coaches that they bring up through the ranks and they send out, and they're getting all of these, consistent third-round picks. Yeah, you give them a first and a third for Brandon Aiyuk and they continue to build. Yeah, I think that's a bad, a bad mix for the Lions, overall, but we have to control what we can control. And that is what we can do in-house to get better, what we can do, to upgrade our team, and Brad Holmes continuing to draft. I would say if you give Brad Holmes a first and a third for somebody, I feel way more confident what Brad Holmes can do with those draft picks than any other GM in the NFL. So I guess to answer that, Lions fans since the 50s, it would be this. Whether Aiyuk plays for the 49ers or moves on from the 49ers, it can help, it can hurt the Lions. I think that if he's gone, obviously that helps the Lions not having to, defend 3 premier targets for the 49ers. But at the same token, we did it last year. We did it. And we have a much better team this year. So I think that we control our own destiny no matter what happens. I think that it's just on the Lions. I don't think that the Lions are going to bring in a guy like Aiyuk. It's just not. We don't have we have the assets to give up. We have the draft capital to give up. We have the money to sign him. I just don't see it happening. I definitely don't see the 49ers trading him to an NFC contender. I think that would be blasphemy, to be honest. Anybody says that that's even possible, I just don't see it being possible. Why would the 49ers do that? That would be like trading Aaron Rodgers to the Lions when Aaron Rodgers was actually good. Why would the Packers do that? It's just not going to happen. So anyway, I didn't mean to derail your segment there, Eric. I just, I had to do it. Maybe someone that's listening to the show is the fake Adam Schefter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that Brad Holmes really played chess on this one. He got the St. Brown deal done early enough that it's affecting all these deals that are coming after it.
Very true.
Right? So now maybe Brad Holmes paid up a little more than he should have. But it's paying off now because now it's derailing the 49ers.
It's true.
It's exactly what he wanted. It's working.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what he forethought, but it's definitely working into his favor that he got some of these deals done early, like Jared Goff, and then you see Trevor Lawrence get way overpaid, and now you want Brandon Aiyuk that wants more money. I can't remember who was signed right after Amon-Ra St. Brown.
It was another wide receiver.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Who was it? I don't remember. But he broke Amon-Ra St. Brown's deal, so. It is what it is. Let's do a quick shout out to our sponsors, and then I want to come back to. I think we have another mailbag question in here somewhere. Open roster spot, Lions fans, Superintendent Chalmers.
Broski Bear's back.
Okay, I did have. Is he really?
Yeah. So you know what? I think that because Caleb Williams signed his contract yesterday, that's why Broski Bear is back.
Well, I don't know. I didn't know that Caleb signed his deal yesterday. I thought he was still unsigned.
No, he signed. Him and the wide receiver there.
Did he get a year's supply of pink nail polish with it too?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's give a shout out to our sponsors, and then I do have another anonymous write-in question. So we'll be back here in just a few moments. Let's give a shout out to our sponsors here. All right, so Sports Spider, if you guys are looking for the latest news and rumors on your Detroit Lions, head to sportspider.com. That's sportspyder.com, where you get all of your sports in one place. You will find your favorite podcast, local writers, and insiders all updating in real time from all major news sources. This site is completely packed with live news, articles, podcasts, and updates from every major sports team, MMA, UFC, and so much more. If you are like me and you don't want to waste time searching, create your ultimate personalized sports hub for free on SportsSpider today. You control what hits your feed. SportsSpider, your number one source for all your sports. Visit sportspider.com today. And then, of course, we have Uperlights. Eric, you want to take Uperlights away?
Sure. So whether you're a seasoned rock hound, you've been doing it your whole life, or you just found out about rocks and you want to get into looking for rocks, gems, and minerals, I'm going to tell you what. Uperlights.com is your one-stop shop for everything rock hounding. You can get everything from a rock stick to a UV flashlight to look for glowing rocks on the shores of the Great Lakes to anything you can think of rock hounding. It's all available at uperlights.com.
All right. Let's get into a couple other mailbag questions. And then also, if you guys visit the description, I know a lot of you don't, but if you visit the description, there's links in there for our FOCO War Fanatics partnerships. Right now, we've got some FOCO gear in there. We've got chef gear. So get your chef hat, your apron, your oven mitt today. So if you want to get to cooking like Brad Holmes, hit the links. Get it for your dad, your brother, your uncle, your husband, your wife, whomever. Whoever's going to be tailgating this season, you want to be dressed up like Brad Holmes. Get to cooking. Hit the FOCO links. And, of course, I have to say that we might make a commission through some of these links, but all of those commissions go to the Rocked On Cancer Foundation. So we don't make a dime. We're going to put that money to good use. It doesn't cost you anything additional. If anything, it might cost you a few pennies less by visiting our links in the description to our FOCO branded partnerships. So let's get to this other mailbag question. This is a good question too. Will, give us one reason. That's very difficult, by the way, for me to give you one. Give us one reason why the Lions won't make the playoffs in 2024. I don't like this question. Maybe that's why it was anonymous. But I'm going to expand it. And I'm going to say, I'm going to give you one reason why the Lions won't and why the NFC North teams won't either, which is impossible. Someone has to make it, right? But I think you get what I'm saying here. So, first off, Eric, do you think there's any sort of a chance the Lions don't make?
Injury.
Look
what happened with the Vikings last year. It's happened to us before. We've been bitten by that bug. All of a sudden, Goff goes down and your season is derailed. Goff tears his Achilles in game 1.
Oh, come on now. Knock on some wood.
Well, I get it. But you have to be a realist when you're a fan. And that stuff really does happen. And, that is what I would think would derail the Lions season is, to a major component like that, or, just like last year with our cornerbacks, having CJ go down for everything except for 2 games, having Cam Sutton be hurt a whole bunch, having, who's the kid we picked up from San Francisco,
E-Man.
Emmanuel Mosley, he goes down 2 plays into the season. That's the kind of stuff that can derail your system and derail your season and just put you in the dirt. And, some teams can come back from it. Some can't. As you saw last year, the Vikings just didn't have enough to get over it, especially after they lost Jefferson for half the season or more. You lose your top 2 players, man. It can derail your system.
Well, I think that's all the more reason why Hendon Hooker has to take a step forward. I mean, you've got to have somebody in the pipeline that can win a few games. So, all right. So I'm going to start with the Lions because that's what the question was wrapped around. So the Detroit Lions. I think that, obviously injury for any team is a problem. So I'm not going to go there. You already went there. I'm not going to go there. Obviously, if you have injuries that amount to too much, it can derail any team. But for me, I think it is the loss of Josh Reynolds and the impact that this can really have on the Detroit Lions. And the reason why I say that is because of something that I mentioned earlier, which is Jameson Williams. He has to be counted on this season. He has to be able to handle full-time, opportunity this year, getting in all the snaps that are even possible for him, playing at a number 2 wide receiver. So I don't know, what is that, 85, 90% of the snap? I don't know, 85% of the offensive snaps or so, maybe 75. I'm not real sure what the breakdown is. I don't remember how many Josh Reynolds had last year. But Josh Reynolds accounted for 75 targets last year. Jameson Williams will be counted on to replace that and finally become the number 12 pick that he was. But it's that drop rate of 18.4% that has me worried. Josh Reynolds, he dropped a ball in the NFC title game. I think that, when you look at both of those, one was a tough pass, still catchable. The other one, just a straight up drop. So I would go 1-to-1 there. 1 for Goff, 1 to Reynolds. Like, it was a tough pass. Okay. It was a little behind him or whatever. He still hit him in the mid. Got to catch it. But there was like the only 2 drops that Reynolds had the entire season. He didn't have many drops. Jameson Williams had like 6 drops in 2 games when he came back. And they continued to plague him throughout the season. Balls hitting him in the face as he's going down the field. Constantly losing the ball in the lights. He's looking over all shoulders multiple times on a one route. That would tell me that there's something wrong with his eyes, or put a visor on, because I think he's losing the ball in the lights. That's what I'm worried about. So I think that the answer for the Lions is if they don't make the playoffs, it's not necessarily the defense. I think that it would be an offensive collapse, because losing Josh Reynolds might become more of an issue than we see. Now, I know that we still have Amon-Ra St. Brown. We still have Sam Laporta. Still have Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. So we still have an amazing offense. So even without a number 2 wide receiver, if Jared Goff is good enough, he can win with what he has. I believe that he's good enough. Patrick Mahomes won with a terrible wide receiver group last year. The difference is Goff is not a dual threat, like Mahomes is. So he's not going to make plays with his legs. You have to be able to count on the guys that are 2nd, 3rd, 4th on this roster behind Amon-Ra St. Brown to play well within a timing offense. So that's my answer. I'm going to go that it's going to be the Lions receivers after Amon-Ra St. Brown will be the reason that there would be any sort of a collapse and why we wouldn't make the playoffs. Now, to piggyback on the injury component, this also means if Amon-Ra St. Brown goes down. So your answer was injuries?
Yeah, and I also think that it would also be, if we can't find that other person on the other side of the defensive line to go with Aiden Hutchinson, say Davenport doesn't work out, Betts doesn't work out, nobody's getting it done on the other side, and then our cornerback room just falls apart, like it did last year. Say all these replacements, same thing happens. We get a bunch of injuries, or they just don't work out. That would be the other reason. But in my heart of hearts, I don't believe any of that's going to happen. I think we're going to be okay on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I do too. And if I were to play, the other side of that, I mean, we did it last season without anybody on the other side of Aiden. So let's just call that a wash. We didn't have anybody over there that was doing anything. If we don't have anybody this year and we have the addition of DJ Reader, I think we're in a much better situation. So there's another reason. What happens if... Now, we're expecting DJ Reader's not going to be ready for week 1. Matter of fact, he's probably not even going to be at training camp, from what I'm understanding. He'll be there, but he'll not be involved, from what I understand. If he can't get back to the field, till week 4 or 5, and we lose 4 or 5 games to start, which isn't going to happen. Yeah, that could be an issue. If DJ Reader doesn't become consistently on the field, you know, and getting more of his fair share of reps, that could be an issue. Because, you know, we got to remember, we just got rid of a lot of guys. So Broderick Martin, yep, I said it the other day, he's going to have, I'm smelling, you know, the smell test here. I think that he's going to have a little bit better season than anticipated. And if DJ Reader's held out at all, which we're expecting now, that's where we need guys to show up. We need Broderick Martin to show up. We need Mekhi Wingo, a 6th-round pick, to show up. We need Josh Paschal to finally show up. We need Levi Onwuzurike to not get injured. We just need guys to play, like nut up and go play. So yeah, I think that there's some worries. I think there's legit concern. Now, I've been pumping the positive train for a long time. Now, as we get closer to the season, you'll start to see the realistic side of me come out. And that is, I'm going to give you the face value of what I see and what's going on. I really wanted to go to every training camp practice. I've got tickets to every practice, but I'm going to be in Cleveland for half of them. So I'm not going to be able to see half the practices, which kind of sucks because I really wanted to get a good look. And some days you don't get a good look at what you want to see. You've got to go in a different direction. Last year, I was really trying to see the defense, and I got stuck with the offense almost all day. So let's move on to the Packers. Why would the Packers not make the playoffs? Any guesses for you?
Well, this is one that I really believe that Jordan Love is going to go back to what he was the first half of the season last year. He's going to go back to being a gunslinger, trying to fit it into windows where it's not supposed to go and throwing lots of interceptions. I think he just caught some magic in a bottle for that second half of the season. And I really think it was fluff. I really do. I think the player he really is what he was the first 8 games of the season.
You know, even if he falls somewhere in between those two players, I think he's better than some of the other players that we're going to see, some of the other quarterbacks.
I don't.
Here we go. So phone lines are open. I forgot to tell you guys at 8:55, phone lines are open. So if you guys want to call in and comment, we limit phone calls to about 3 minutes. So call in, get your topic stated, and then we'll answer it with you off air. 313-312-0348. Give us one reason why the Lions won't make the playoffs in 2024. And if you have any ideas or thoughts or comments on why any other team in the NFC North won't make the playoffs in 2024, you can include that too. So phone lines are open. And if you have anything else, if you don't want to answer that question and you just got a statement about the Lions or, anything that, you want to say that's about the Lions, feel free to call in 313-312-0348. And we're going to start doing this pretty much every morning. We're going to do the radio style kind of segment here, get you guys involved. If you want to be a consistent caller and you do a good job, there might be some prizes for some of the best callers. You might have best caller awards this year. So Green Bay Packers for me, it's not so much about Jordan Love as it is about the offensive line. So their offensive line was trash last year for the large majority of the season. The expectation, according to one article, is that Morgan will open the season as the Packers' starting left tackle, replacing Rasheed Walker, who was getting time for David Bakhtiari, which Bakhtiari, I believe, retired. So, or he's no longer with the team. Bakhtiari's battled injuries over the past few years, but was one of the best blockers in the NFL when healthy. Now they did bring in this rookie, right, Morgan, and he's not switching sides as a rookie. He put up an 87.1 pass blocking grade at left tackle for Arizona in 2023, but still just 5 rookies earned a better pass blocking grade than Walker's 74.7 last year. Remember, Rasheed Walker was the starting left tackle last year for the Packers. I still think that the Packers have an offensive line problem. And I'm not sold that their running game is any better than what it was before. So for that reason, I think that would be the reason why the Packers struggle, because you're going to go up against some good defenses this year. And if we can get to Jordan Love, to your point, when Jordan Love was under pressure, he's a complete scatterball. He scatters the ball everywhere, right? The Lions had him under pressure week 4 pretty bad. The guy was rattled, made mistake after mistake after mistake, and that's why we win the game. So, to your point, yeah, you rattle Jordan Love, he falls apart. Now let's get to Broski's Bears. Is Broski still in here? Where's Broski at? Is he still in here?
He kind of disappeared, I think.
No, he'll probably creep back up.
Yep.
Chicago Bears. So, what do you say about the Bears? What I can only guess what you're gonna say, but go ahead.
I would think that Caleb Williams just isn't the second coming of CJ Stroud, which I don't think he is. If you go back and look at some of his numbers, I don't have them in front of me, but I just don't think Caleb Williams and this bot team for the Bears is going to live up to the hype. I just don't think it is. I don't think it's going to gel the way that these Bear fans think it's going to gel, and I think it's just going to fall apart. That's my honest, open opinion. It's my opinion. I don't think the Bears are going to win more than 4 games this year. That's just what I feel. Really, looking at it from an outside perspective, I just don't think they're going to be that good.
That would be a complete meltdown, and you better fire Ryan Poles if that happens, because
exactly. I think their coach is gone at the end of the year. I think Eberflus is done.
Yeah, that's craziness. Broski, so why don't you call in, Broski? Why don't you call in? 313-312-0348. You tell us why your Bears are going to make. Now, no cussing or swearing on the phone lines.
Or not make.
You tell us why the Bears are going to make the playoffs or win the NFC North. Or maybe give us a reason as to why they wouldn't. So I'm going to give you my answer. It's kind of in line with what Eric just said. So Caleb Williams doesn't hit the ground running. It's that simple. There's a lot expected of Caleb Williams. He's entering the NFL with a 90-plus PFF grade in all 3 of his college seasons. But if you look at what happened in the last, half of the season last year for Caleb Williams, not good. According to this article, they say it's worth noting that just six of 29 rookie quarterbacks who have dropped back to pass 200 plus times over the past 5 years have earned a PFF grade of 75 or better. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure why that matters to them. But Justin Fields earned a PFF grade of 74.6 in 2023. The Bears failed to make the playoffs. So a playoff run with a rookie at quarterback in 2024 might be a stretch, is what they're saying. And I agree, because I've done the work. I've done the math. And the math states this. Your rookie quarterback, whether it's a first-round pick or beyond, typically takes 2.5 seasons to have a winning season, let alone make the playoffs. 2.5 seasons. So that means that the Bears, with their rookie quarterback, unless he's some CJ Stroud, second coming, like you say, the Bears won't be in the playoffs until 2026 and a half. So 2027 is when the Bears might make the playoffs. Now, they could get a wild card spot, potentially. But be that as it may, all equal, they shouldn't be in the playoffs for another few seasons. Well, what's going to happen between now and then? They're going to lose a lot of the high-priced players that they brought in. They're going to have to buy new ones because they don't know how to develop in Chicago. Chicago has never had a good quarterback, ever. Matter of fact, I don't even think they've had a quarterback that's thrown for more than I don't think any of them's thrown for 4,000 yards, have they?
Never had one.
Or even 40 touchdowns combined.
Nope. Never.
So I think that tells you a lot that, and I don't care about the new coaching staff or any of that. Chicago just has a tough time developing players. If they don't hit in the draft or hit with a free agent, it seems like it's kind of the end of the road for them. Maybe this coaching staff could be different. They're going to have to prove it. But how can you prove it when you buy an entire team? Roma Dunzi obviously is exciting. So I think for the Bears not to make it this year, I think that Caleb Williams is going to have his welcome to the NFL moment. And he's going to realize that this game is a lot harder than what he's anticipating. This guy thinks that he's just going to come in and control everything from day one, and he's going to find out from game one he's going to get smacked in the mouth and it doesn't feel good. So I think that the Bears are going to struggle. I don't say that they're not going to win more than 4 games. I'm going to say that they're probably going to go somewhere in that 7-10 neighborhood and probably finish 3rd in the NFC North. I think that the Vikings, I hate to say that the Vikings would even finish below that, but there is the possibility depending on what happens with their roster. So next up, Minnesota Vikings. Why won't they make the playoffs? I think this one's even more simple. The drop-off between Kirk Cousins to J.J. McCarthy or Sam Darnold just might be too much to overcome.
Yeah.
If you throw J.J. McCarthy at the Wolves early, bad idea. I don't think that he's ready. Great dude. Decent arm. Mechanics are rough. Little hitchy from the waist up. I would say it's better to sit him, waste a season, do the best you can, come back next year, because if they do that, they will definitely beat the Bears every single year. If they do that, if they rest J.J. McCarthy and get him ready for season 2. Sam Darnold, though, I think that he's a much better quarterback than what people are giving him credit to be. And again, according to this article, they're right in line with this too, stating that the drop off from Kirk Cousins to J.J. McCarthy or Sam Darnold is too much. I'm right in line with this. So J.J. McCarthy and Kevin O'Connell can be a great long-term pairing in Minnesota, and Sam Darnold might not be as terrible as a bridge option. I hate that word. Given that he is coming off of a 74.8 passing grade in his lone start with the 49ers last season. That being said, Kirk Cousins earned a PFF grade above 77 in all 6 seasons with the Vikings, and that won't be easy to replicate. The Vikings should be better than what they were injury-wise last year. So, what do you think about the Vikings?
Well, this is what I think about the Vikings. The Vikings have a little bit better of an offensive line than the Packers do. Not quite up there with the Lions as far as offensive line goes. But I think the thing that's really going to hurt the Vikings is their running game. They picked up the running back from the Packers, older. Running back hits 30 years old. That's typically when they really fall off. You can look at every stat you want to. Most running backs fall off at 30. And I don't know who they have behind him. Not a lot. And I think that in combination with Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy, that is what is going to sink their season. And I know I'm not alone. Pretty much everyone believes the same thing, that the Vikings just aren't going to be super great this season. All my friends, I just got back from Minnesota. All my friends out there, they're all Minnesota Viking fans, and with me wearing my Lions gear all weekend, I had quite a few, real honest conversations about this upcoming season about the Vikings and the Lions. And most of them are in agreement that they don't think that the Vikings are going to have this Super Bowl run this year. They know it's not this year. They know it's another year or two away, and they're going to have to develop JJ, and they don't want to see him thrown to the Wolves either. And I think that is what is going to sink their season this year. But I think that Minnesota, even with Sam Darnold and a subpar run game, are still going to be in that 7 game win range for this season.
So I will say this, Broski Bear put something in here about his goal for Caleb Williams this season: 3,400 passing yards, 20 passing TDs, a 64 completion percentage, and no more than 11 interceptions. Broski, here's what I would say to that. Those are god-awful stats. Like 20 to 11. So you want one TD, one interception for every 2 TDs, 50% interception to TD ratio. That's terrible. 3,400 passing yards with Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. You should add another 1,000 yards to that easily. To be realistic for a rookie, though, I would say, matter of fact, here, let's play a game. Let's play the what did the rookies do last year game. NFL rookie quarterback stats 2023. All right. So CJ Stroud, 4,108 yards, 23 TDs to 5 interceptions. Completion percentage. I'm sorry?
That right there would be the best quarterback stats probably ever for the Bears.
Yeah, and that would also be one of the best rookie statistics seasons ever for an incoming rookie. Completion percentage is 63.9. Now, your completion percentage is 64%. I mean, that's not... I guess I shouldn't say that's terrible. I would say that's right around the league average. And we can look at that here in a minute. But I guess when you look at what CJ Stroud did compared to Bryce Young, now Bryce Young had a completely terrible season. And you got to remember that this CJ Stroud did this in 15 games. He didn't even play the full season. Bryce Young played 16 games. He had a 59.8 completion percentage, 2,900-ish yards, 11 TDs to 10 interceptions. That's god-awful.
Horrible.
God-awful. Now, you really can't compare this to anyone else because nobody else really played a full season. So let's look at 2022. I mean, really, you should probably just look at the starting or the top rookies, right? I mean, the top drafted, the top 5 picks. Yeah, I'm sorry, but 2022 is probably the worst quarterback class I've ever seen. One of. I mean, Kenny Pickett was one of your top rated or top drafted. Sam Howell, Malik Willis, Brock Purdy, obviously drafted as the Mr. Nobody or whatever, Mr. Irrelevant. Bailey Zapp. So we're going to have to go back to 2021 possibly to find any relevant stats on a rookie quarterback. Let's look at that one. So 2021, Mac Jones, 3,800 yards, 22 TDs to 13 interceptions. So that's kind of right in line with your 20 to 11. So are you saying that Caleb Williams is right around as good as Mac Jones? 3,800 yards, 22 to 13, 67.6% completion percentage. And you can't even look at anybody else in there because they all sucked. Trey Lance.
I would say this, Will. Go back and look at what Justin Fields did in his rookie season. That's probably going to be very similar to what Caleb Williams does in his rookie season.
I mean, that's probably not good.
Yeah, it's not good at all. And if I had to guess, that's what it's going to be.
I don't know about all that. I mean, his passer rating was 73.2. He had 1,870 yards, 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions in 12 games in his rookie year in 2021. That's pathetic.
Yep.
I would say this. Look, if your quarterback is not getting Broski, and I'm not trying to pick on you, but, I mean, you put it out there. I'm going to talk about it. If your rookie quarterback can't get you at least 3,800 yards, 26 TDs, less than 13 or 14 interceptions, I mean, you're a rookie. You're going to make a few mistakes. Completion percentage definitely should be above 60%. then I would say, that's not a great season. And you're talking Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall, that thinks that he's going to go and win 8 Super Bowls. He's also a running quarterback. So I guess you have to take away, if he's not getting 3,800 or 4,000 yards, you're going to have to take away what he did on the ground, away from his passing. So we just don't know how much he's going to run. And if he's even going to be able to run. I mean, their offensive line is not great in Chicago. So I guess maybe I'll recant a little bit, but I still think that 3,400, 20-11, and 64% would not be a great season for the Bears, but I think that would put the Bears in 3rd place probably in the NFL or the NFC North, to be honest with you. Brent Lighton, yes, the Bears have never had a 4,000-yard QB. Be careful, things that you guys say with responses and that. Obviously, if you use certain words, we're gonna take it down, but YouTube will also flag it. So let's see. Roger Chapman says, I believe that Caleb Williams will be better than Justin Fields in his rookie season. I would agree with that. I mean, I don't know how much worse it could be. That's setting the bar pretty low. But Caleb is in for a rude NFL awakening. I believe that. Peter Van Larhoven joined the show this morning, says, does anyone know why the Lions never put out a video on the draft room as they have in the past? I think that they'll probably cover that stuff in Inside the Den. I think they've only done 1 episode of Inside the Den so far. So there should be another episode coming out here pretty soon. All right, so that's really it for today. Other than Eric, did you have any fantasy stuff you want to talk about today?
Sure, we can talk a little bit about fantasy football. So fantasy football, we're all going to be getting our teams going here pretty soon. And most of us, we don't draft until the 2nd or 3rd week of the preseason. We want to see who's going to make the teams, who's not going to make the teams. And for me, it's not necessarily about the average draft position for a lot of these guys, because those are pretty well set. They don't move. The top 20 doesn't move all that much. But what I try to do is I try to find players that are surprise players, people that you're not thinking about, but you get to see something about them in the preseason. So last year, my 2 players that I picked up were Puka Nacua, who I picked up after the first week of the season, and he had such a good preseason, and then he did it again in the first game of the season, so I picked him up, and he did very well. And then the other one was one of our own, and that was, let's see, his name is escaping me right now, Sam Laporta. And Sam Laporta is another one that I just had a gut feeling that this kid was going to be good, and he did a whole bunch in the preseason, and then ended up picking him up after the first week of the season. And those 2 players right there helped me win my season. So right now, like the top 5 for fantasy football, the average draft position, you have Christian McCaffrey at number 1, pretty solid, right? And then you have CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson. So that 4 out of the top 5 are all receivers. And then followed right behind them is Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then another run on running backs again. And having players like Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown on your fantasy football team can really help you. Drafting them in like the 1st or 2nd round are the types of players that get lots of looks every week. And boy, did some of those help me win my league last year. And for the longest time, it was always you have to draft 2 running backs first before you go after anything else. But I think it's changed over the last couple of years. When I first got into fantasy football, all I did was draft Detroit Lions. I told the guys that were in the league that they wanted me to get in, I said, I'll do it as long as I can draft all Detroit Lions players. And they're like, you can draft whoever you want. As long as they're available, you can draft them. So I did. In the first couple years I did it, I only drafted Detroit Lions players. Well, the very first year, I was 1 game from making the playoffs. I didn't make the playoffs, right? So after that, I've kind of gotten sick of losing $100 every year, and I actually put some time in, and I started listening to fantasy football radio on Sirius XM radio and started diving into some of the fantasy football stuff. And all of a sudden, I'm making the playoffs this year. Oh, I'm making the playoffs again the next year, and the next year, and the next year. And now I've won the championship back to back the last 2 years in a row. And one thing that's really helped me is learning how to manage my bottom of my roster, the guys that are on my not set to play every week, the bottom of my roster, and picking up guys off of free agency that are flyers, and leaving some room on my what do you call it, my list, so that I can pick up anybody I want, and learning how to get the number one waiver wire so I can get that player before anybody else. And it's a lot of fun. Fantasy football is just great. It's going to be an awesome season this year, and I will try to bring everybody in on what I'm doing on my leagues as well as the leagues that Will's setting up. It's going to be really fun. And there's different types of leagues. So like one of my leagues is what's called a keeper league, and you get to keep 3 players. You get to keep them year after year after year, and any 3 players you want, and you can switch it up every year to different players. And last year, I think I had CeeDee Lamb. Oh, who were my other 2? I'd have to look it up, but I've had CeeDee Lamb since he was a rookie, and I had a really good feeling about him, and he has done really, really well for me. Derrick Henry was one of my other keepers, and I think he's going to have a decent season. Even though he's over 30, I think with him going to the Ravens, I think the Ravens have a really good offensive line, and they've always been a really good running team. So I expect big things out of King Henry this year, even though he's getting up there towards the end of his career. I think he's still got 1 or 2 possible good seasons in him. And then, let's see, I had a couple other players like Deebo Samuel. I've had Brandon Aiyuk on a couple of my teams, and we'll see if we keep him this year. We'll see who we don't. And I'll get all those lists going, and I'll have some really fun segments on fantasy football for sure.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that, with the fantasy football league that I'm putting together, I hopefully we'll get all that done today. That's the goal. But the Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever, what day that Eric's going to do some fantasy football stuff, it's going to be talking about, the movers, the shakers, kind of what's going on with the players as far as where they should be ranked. Potentially, should you pick them up, start them, sit them type thing. So we'll be bringing some of that information. Obviously, I haven't played fantasy in a couple of seasons. I just haven't had the time. But when I had 12 leagues going, I won quite a bit. Won a lot of championships, but I should have played the last couple of seasons. I just didn't have the time. So I'll do it this year. Like I said, I'm out of practice, but I still know how to play. I still know how to forecast these players. So we'll have some fun with it.
During the season, it's a lot of fun because it makes every single game fun to watch, because either you have a player on that team or you're playing against a player on that team or in that game. So it makes every single game have so much more meaning for you. So when you're watching the Bears and the Cardinals, it actually means something, because someone on one of those teams, even though they might be bad teams, there's someone on the team that's going off.
For some reason, my date is wrong on today's main scene. But so here's a question. So how many teams do you normally have in your fantasy league?
12 for all the ones I play in are 12.
And how about you guys listening? So if you're playing fantasy football, how many teams are you guys usually having in each league? So, I mean, I have...
Typically, it's 10 or 12.
Yeah, so I've got anywhere from 4 to 32 that I can select. Obviously, if you have less, that gives people more opportunity to have better teams. We just create more leagues. I guess we'll start with 12. We'll see where it goes. I can always make adjustments.
I've never done one shorter than 12 person. I've been in a couple of Yahoos that were 10 person leagues, and man, they can put up some points in those leagues.
Yeah, so I'm not sure yet, Moonscar. I think that, if you have a 12-team league, you'd probably have to have at least four or 1/3 to probably make the playoffs. I think that I don't know. How many teams usually make it in the playoffs in your leagues?
Oh, let's see. In ours, it's a little different in both of them. Some of them, so there's 12 teams, 4 teams in each division. And then the top 3 divisional winners get in plus 1 wild card. So you'd have four teams in. And then another one I'm in, I think it's the top 6 teams come in, and then the top 2 get a bye week for the first week. So a lot of them, it's 6 teams get into the playoffs, but you have the top 2 get a bye week, and then the other 4 play for the 2 spots, and then they play 2 spots again the next week with the people that had the bye weeks, and then they have their championship. So there's 3 weeks to the playoffs, and that's usually week 14, 15, or 15, 16, and 17. Because we don't like to have championships during week 18, because the week 18 of the regular season, a lot of teams are resting starters, and you don't want to have, Christian McCaffrey and he doesn't even play for your championship game. That would really suck.
Right. All right. Well, hey, thank you everyone for joining the Rocked On Detroit Lions Rise and Grind morning show this morning. We'll be back at it tomorrow, and we'll see what happens between today and tomorrow. It's been difficult finding a lot of news, so we'll see what we can put together. We'll have more information on fantasy leagues here soon. Please get your mailbag questions into mailbag@rockedon.com. We'll see you guys all tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Adam Schefter at ESPN says there's 275,000 people.
Well, that was some party in downtown Detroit. 775,000 people shattering the NFL draft attendance record.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.